What's the latest, Charlie?
Well, those two hostages released last night by Hamas, the terror group in Gaza, who took them on that atrocious morning on October the 7th. They were released into Israeli territory, taken by Israeli soldiers and brought to their families last night. This was welcome news in a time of appalling misery, especially for so many of the families waiting for news about their loved ones taken by Hamas on the 7th. Yesterday, the IDF said that over half of the hostages are confirmed alive. They didn't give details on how they acquired that information. And they also said that over 20 are under 18, so dozens of children still being kept by the terror group in the Gaza Strip. But the news also of those released hostages was welcomed internationally, with the French, the Americans, and also the British coming out to thank Qatar's efforts for liaising with Hamas in their facilitation of hostage release. This is not the first time Qatar has been involved in such a mission. They were instrumental in ensuring mediation for hostage release in Africa recently for an American held there, and also in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Qatar has also acted as a mediator for the exchange of prisoners. But the IDF reaction is still one of, there are still at least 201 hostages in the Gaza Strip. This is only the start. This is a small gesture. In fact, they say there will be no break in their attempts to destroy Hamas. And this release and those statements come just 24 hours after the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, yesterday set out his plan in lucid detail on how they intend to destroy Hamas. He said there would be fires and tactical maneuvers, presumed to be a reference to that ground invasion, and then a lower intensity of war after they, quote, assassinate Hamas and destroy its infrastructure. And then he said the security responsibility of Gaza will be handed over. Still a lot of criticism in Israel about the lack of an end state plan for the Israelis for the upcoming move into the Gaza Strip. And they do see that the attempt to release hostages by Hamas is seen by many in Israel this morning as an attempt to delay the invasion. Many people around the world calling for a delay to secure more hostage releases, and that is clearly a priority for the IDF. But as their plan set out yesterday, they still want to invade, they still want to destroy Hamas and all its capabilities wherever they can find them.
Of course, we've seen President Biden and then Rishi Sunak going to Israel and, of course, visiting other world leaders or Middle Eastern leaders. And I guess a lot of people will find comfort in the fact that maybe that's why it is important for us all to have other friends in Middle Eastern countries, because Qatar played such an important part in releasing those two hostages. It does show, doesn't it, some sort of grounds for optimism that Hamas will at least talk about releasing hostages. Is there any chance there could be more?
Well, many are seeing this as a cynical release, a strategic and tactical release designed to delay the invasion. And there is, of course, a sign of optimism with regards to the fact that some diplomacy here clearly has worked. I think maybe the American and Qatari diplomacy being the most crucial here. Since 2015, the US has had a deputy special presidential envoy for hostages around the world, and that person is currently based in Israel, working on engaging with regional partners. No other nation has such an involvement in the hostage situation in the Gaza Strip. But also, Hamas has enjoyed the depiction of this conflict as the Western world versus the Arab world. And so engagement between Qatar and the US and the UK, and of course the other nationalities who have hostages inside the Gaza Strip, is a crucial information war effort to reduce that depiction. But at the same time, many of the Arab powers, in fact all of them around Israel and indeed in the north, have engaged with significant protests with their people in reaction to that explosion on Tuesday night in the hospital in North Gaza. Only the Americans and the Israelis have put forward a comprehensive understanding of what they believe has happened in that explosion. Last night we heard from French intelligence saying what they thought happened, but we've still not heard from Rishi Sunak or the British intelligence community. What do they think happened on Tuesday night? And there is some concern in Israel among security officials and people discussing this issue that some Western nations will not discuss their version of events of Tuesday night, of that tipping point in this conflict as the Arab world erupted in anger. They will not discuss it because they fear the blowback in their own countries, as protests have also rocked, let's not forget, London and many other Western capitals. So a very significant moment here in understanding how they can engage with the hostage situation and also use more diplomacy in the Arab world to try and bridge that gap that has erupted since Tuesday night.
OK, Charlie, thanks very much indeed. The information war that Charlie talks about is so important. And I think because a lot of people just take a side, and that's not right, because you can't necessarily believe what you hear, which is always the case in conflict. It's
just very interesting. The release of those 2 hostages is a surprise to me, because I didn't think Hamas were capable, frankly, of... but as Charlie pointed out, it may well be a cynical thing.